Hey, non-negotiables. And I love it. Whoa, still getting used to it being so short. So good. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. You guys know the deal. My name is Victoria. This is Renascential, my small bath and body care brand. And today we are talking all things markets. Again, if you've been here for a while, you probably know two things. First, I do a ton of vendor markets. This year, my goal was to do about 75 of them, but we'll kind of circle back to that in a second. Number two, I actually posted a video last year all about my market process, from finding markets and applying to them to getting there and setting up my booth to look exactly how I want it to look. I have a video all about that you can check out here, because a lot of today's video will recap some of that, but I have a lot of new tips for you guys. So I wanted to redo that and kind of give you a spruced up version so that as we kind of transition into the fall, you guys are ready and prepared with all of my best tips and tricks to be really successful at your vendor markets. So let's go back to kind of my market schedule. So far this year, I've applied for over 75 markets and I've already completed about 30 of them. And it's been a busy year. That was my goal, was to really do as many as possible this year so that I can use it kind of as a case study year to really nail down my best locations, my favorite organizers, just all around where I want to put all of my energy into as I keep moving forward in my business when it comes to in-person events. I actually started doing markets right at the beginning of 2022, I believe, which is pretty much right after when I launched my business in September 2021. So I've pretty much been doing these events for as long as I've been selling my products, period. That being said, I've kind of grown with the markets. I've had my really bad days out there. I've had really great days out there. And I'm now at the point where I found my rhythm. I enjoy doing them and they've been a major part of my business growth strategy. We are heading into fall and I get a lot of questions from you guys just related to markets as a whole. And I figured this would be the best time to redo that video that I posted last year, giving you some new and updated tips and just really send you into this next season, whether you are continuing markets and trying to kind of level up your experience, or if you're going out there for the first time, which I'm seeing a lot of you are, and I love it, and just set you up for the best success possible. So let's get into it. Back to basics. Let's go ahead and start with what exactly are vendor markets and how do those differ from pop-ups? Some people probably will use those terms interchangeably. So to most people, they're the same thing. I think on a more technical level, vendor markets are in-person shopping experiences for local customers to come and shop your products, where you as a vendor will typically pay to have a booth and set up and sell your products there. On the other hand, pop-ups can be a little bit of both. They are either invite-only events where you can actually reach out to and apply to be a part of these events with some retailers or just brick and mortar locations, or it can be one where you are also paying to be there and vend and do the same thing, but they typically have a much smaller footprint of other, potential businesses out there with you. So whereas at a vendor market, you might be competing and have, 35 other vendors or sometimes up to 100 plus other vendors out there with you, pop-ups are a little bit more intimate and they typically tend to be at another location tied to another store or business, and you're kind of sharing the space with them and their current customers, and you're kind of like, oh, popping up. I actually haven't done any pop-ups myself because I have done just so many, countless vendor markets. That's what we're going to focus on today in this video. Now, I know a second ago I did say that some of these events can have anywhere from 25 to 100 plus different vendors. But the good thing is, if it's organized and managed well, you typically won't be competing with more than 3 or 4 other businesses in your category. For example, this year I've done some pretty big markets, some that have been closer to around Mother's Day gifting time, some that are just, sporadic once a month. And then of course, holiday time is really just the time for in-person shopping at small businesses. So for all of those, I would say there's about 115 vendors, and that is a lot of people. But the events that I do are really well managed, and I've never had to compete with more than 4 other businesses that are also doing bath and body care. And on top of that, the organizers are usually really good at having us submit exactly what products we sell to make sure that there aren't 3 people doing body butter. Maybe there's a body butter, a body cream, and a lotion. Maybe there's soaps, but I have perfumes and someone else doesn't have that at all. So they do a really good job of spreading us evenly so that we aren't constantly competing. Getting accepted and being there in the first place means that you're in a place where you're able to compete and hold your own against these other brands. Customers out there are always going to be the last ones to make the final decision on who they want to support every day. So we can all eat. Now, when it comes to finding vendor markets in your area, this is where in my last video, I said you just need to become an internet searching pro. You can use platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook events, all of those, but of course you can never go wrong with Google, and search for keywords like vendor markets in my area, vendor markets in city name, small business events in my city, things like that. And you're just looking for ones that are accepting vendors. So when you find one, go to their site, look for applications or anything like that, and then kind of follow that trail. 2 other really good sites that I think you guys should check out are Eventbrite and also Eventini. Both of these sites give you a space where you can actually narrow down to the specific city that you're in, whether it's by city name or zip code, and then you can actually search for events that are upcoming. And then of course, most of those will probably have somewhere that you can apply to be a vendor. On Eventini specifically, and I'll have this link for you below, this site is so good for finding all small business events that are coming up in your area, and it's specifically for applying and taking part in them. On their site, you can actually go in there, put in the specific locations you're looking to vend at, or possibly, don't mind driving to, and find all upcoming events that still have applications open and available. Be sure to really check your links though. This site is open for both small business vendors as well as food trucks and just more specific types of vendor categories. So make sure that you're looking and you're applying for the right one for you. When I said that I've applied for over 75 markets this year, I am not kidding. And I'm telling you, Eventini is the main reason that that was even possible. It can be difficult to find events to take part of, but when you have something like this, it's just so easy to tap into anything in your area or a little bit further out of your area that you maybe wouldn't have thought about, and just apply, get in there. One more tip that I did say in my last video, but I'm gonna run it back here because I think it's just a really good tip to have in your back pocket. Take advantage of this list of organizers and just event managers that you found by doing your Facebook, your Google, Instagram searching. Of course, they want to promote and advertise their events coming up, right? So they probably have a social media presence. Go over to their Instagram and check their tagged photos. Without a doubt, you will find other small businesses that are promoting themselves as being a part of an event that's hosted by that organizer. So go over to those businesses pages, check their posts, and look for past events and upcoming events that they're currently promoting. And there you go. You have a whole list of people in your area probably that are promoting different events that they've taken part of or will be taking part of that you can also throw an application in for. I feel like I'm so far from the camera. Hey. Okay, I feel like I just flew through that, so I really hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you need any more one-on-one help finding events in your area. I am so happy to tag team this with you guys and help you narrow down your list. Next up, let's talk about application tips. Just like job applications, this is where you really got to shine. Finding the market is really just the first step, but you got to make sure that your application is really strong if you want to get accepted. Competition's getting stiff out here, guys. Every application that you do and every vendor, market organizer that you find is probably going to require or ask for something different in their application. So if any of the following tips that I give aren't exactly hitting exactly something that you're seeing when you're applying, please let me know below or in my Instagram DMs. And again, I'm so happy to help you guys just one-on-one, and we can work through this together, and I can give you some tips to help strengthen your application. Just to cover some of the kind of high-level things that I'm pretty sure you'll find on every application that you do, let's start with high-res imagery. This is huge. This is a big thing that I don't think I've applied for a single market that didn't require me to submit either a picture of my products or of my booth setup, but make sure you have really high quality, really strong imagery to send with your application. Of course, the reason for this is that the organizers want to see exactly what they will have presented at their event. They want to see how your booth might look at the event. That's not all the time, but I have had 3 organizers who do a bunch of different events under their, umbrella that require a picture of your booth because they want to see if you kind of fit the vibe of their event. So that actually rolls me into the next tip. If this is your first time ever doing markets, I'm sure you don't have a setup picture of your booth yet because you haven't had a chance to do it. So something that I actually did when I first started doing my market research and I found all these applications I was interested in submitting for, I saw that they all needed that booth setup picture. So I ordered all of my booth materials and I took it to a big open parking lot that was pretty close to my place at the time. And I set up everything right there. This was great because it gave me a chance to see my setup done and to practice doing it, and then of course to get a really good photo of it so that I could submit it on my applications. So yes, don't be afraid to take all your booth materials, go set up in a parking lot, in your backyard, in your living room, anywhere that you can find space to either do just your table setup if you're using like a 6-foot table, or to do your full 10 by 10 canopy tent setup. You gotta have a good picture. Next up is a good write-up or a blurb about your brand and all of your products that you're interested in selling at that event. This is pretty much always required, so make sure that you have at least a paragraph, maybe 3 to 4 sentences that explain your brand and what makes you special, and then also have at least 2 sentences or something like that for each product that you want to display on your table and sell at that event. So for me, I have a full paragraph. I think it's like 5 sentences, all about Renascential, how I started it and what makes the brand special in my opinion. And then I have a breakdown of each product: body creams, scrubs, oils, perfumes, bath salts, and all of my discovery kits. And I actually explain what those are in these other blurbs so that I can show them this is what I have, this is why it matters. And sometimes they might also require you to put down the cost of everything. So I'll say my body creams start at $9 for the 2-ounce size, all the way up to $30 for an 8-ounce. So talk about your range, tell the organizers what you have to offer, and that also ties back to what I said earlier so that they can see exactly what you have and make sure that they match you up with other businesses that are complementary and not a direct competition for you. This next one isn't exactly a requirement, but it's definitely a plus when you're applying and trying to stand out against other applicants. Social media. Gotta have a social media presence. I've seen this firsthand this year. I've really picked up my social media posting and just my overall presence in the last few months, and I'm pretty much getting into every market that I apply for, and I'm positive that that's because they can see that I'm active online. I think organizers care about this because they want to know that whoever they're accepting is probably going to help cross promote their event. So once you get accepted, you're kind of taking on this responsibility to also help get the word out about that event that's coming up. So the more active you are now, the more they'll assume you will be during their event, and then the more foot traffic it brings to the event. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. So if you aren't posting, I highly recommend you do. And this is coming from someone who hates posting on Instagram specifically, but I've kind of found my stride in the last few months, and it's because of this 75 hard social media challenge I've been doing. I can see it directly affecting my acceptances. Gotta do it. You gotta do it. I know. Start at any schedule, posting cadence that you can keep up with, but try to get something out there just to help, again, strengthen your applications. All right, last thing here, but something that I highly recommend is having a calendar or using a spreadsheet of some sort, something that will help you keep track of your upcoming application dates and deadlines, as well as the payment deadlines. Sometimes you'll be lucky and you'll find an organizer who actually lists all of their events at the beginning of the year, usually around March through mid to end of December is market season. And then of course the holidays through February is kind of the off season for most markets. I have gotten lucky and I found organizers who post all of their events all at once, and you can apply for all of them at the same time, either in one application or separately, but you know when all of those dates will be. From there, most organizers accept people on either a monthly or kind of every other month schedule. So let's say that I apply for a market in March, that doesn't happen until May. I'll typically find out if I got into that May market sometime in April so that they know ahead of time who's going to be on their roster, and you can also plan for that event coming up. Payment dates vary, so make sure that you check with the organizers. They should have that listed in their application somewhere, but most of my markets, after accepting you about a month out, they might require payment payment 2 weeks ahead of time, or some of them require payment the second that you get accepted. They are withdrawing from whatever account or card that you had there on file. So it's just something you want to keep track of to make sure that none of your dates are conflicting. You don't want to double book yourself unless you know for sure you can make both events in one day, but you also want to make sure you don't end up losing that spot that you worked so hard to get accepted for because you missed a deadline for payment. So if I were building out a spreadsheet or something, for example, I would have one column for the event name, one for the organizer, one for the application deadline that I can kind of, check off as applied or didn't apply XYZ. The event date, so you know exactly when the date is and you can check that with the rest of the list to make sure you're not double booked. And then the payment date. Just make sure you keep track of all those dates, all of those details, and stay on it because again, you worked so hard to get accepted. You did all this pre-work and make sure you get that spot. You did the work, you got accepted, you paid on time, you're all set. You have a market coming up. How do you advertise yourself? Something I think you definitely should do is put out a post either on social media or in your email list is another great place to do it, on TikTok, XYZ, anywhere that you know that you can reach your local buyers. Let people know exactly what your upcoming event dates look like. Something else that's a really good idea is to actually post something that kind of documents your preparation for those events. So for me, example, I could put up something on my Instagram story or another reel or something that shows me preparing batches of product, jarring things up, piping my cream into jars. I could show myself stamping my gift bags, anything like that that kind of helps to build hype and just remind people that I'm getting ready for an event in person. Come see me. And of course, you kind of want to circle back to either that email list that you have that announced all of your dates or the previous post where you have all your dates, anything like that, just to keep it top of mind for anyone following you that you got something coming up. They should be ready to come see you in person. Of course, once the day of the market comes, now you want to post yourself at the event. Get some shots of customers walking by your booth or trying out things in your booth. Get some shots of you setting up. Anything like that, just kind of, again, document your day. And again, this works very well if you post it on Instagram or something where people could see it live action as it's happening. And maybe they forgot. Maybe they just weren't paying attention to your other posts, but they see that you reminded them, hey, I'm going to be here from this time to this time. We're getting set up now. Hey, we're 2 hours in. We have 2 hours left. Come see me here until this time. That stuff will get some of your core fans, your followers, to come and see you in person. And then of course, now the market's done, you're heading home, event's over, post a thank you. Kind of say thank you for anyone who came out to see me today. Thanks for 20 sales today. It was a great day out at X location. Anything like that would work so well as just a final cherry on top kind of wrap up for that event. And then you can rinse and repeat that whole cycle for your next event. For all of those posts, make sure that you are tagging the organizers of the event on Instagram, on TikTok, wherever you're posting. Make sure you're leading back to that event because number one, it's really great for that cross promotion. A lot of these organizers will reshare your post, especially now that you can repost things on Instagram. It's a great way to get in front of the people who are actually following the organizers instead of just you. They might recycle your posts and put you out on their feed. And then also it's really great for building up your relationship with those organizers. This is a two-way street. You being at their event helps them because they want to have high quality, good vendors at their markets, but also you want to keep getting accepted and you want to build up that relationship and let them know that you are, you're going to follow through. You're going to promote, you're going to show up on time and follow their setup and breakdown rules. So the more that you get in front of them, the more you'll build up that relationship and just become hopefully a favorite. Okay, next up is the creative part. This is where we have a lot of fun. Setting up your booth. In my last video, I actually did a full run through of everything that I use at my current booth setup. And then in this video, I showed you guys how I recently expanded my booth to add on another table and another display for my products. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on exactly everything that I use because a lot of that hasn't really changed. So again, if you want to see my full table setup and how I do it at every single market that I do, make sure you check out those two videos because everything that I use is linked there in the description. For this video, we're just going to touch on some of my absolute must-have things. Like if you don't have these, you're not prepared in my eyes. These are my non-negotiables. Most markets that you attend are going to require you to have some sort of covering. I do go to one market that is a very narrow space and we don't have room for a full canopy tent. or even my second table is just not big enough to have any more than one 6-foot table. So for that event, they actually let us bring out little pool umbrellas that you can use instead of a full 10 by 10 setup. So that's kind of, you know, a separate specific case. But for most events that you do, you're going to have a 10 by 10 space that's kind of loaned to you for this market. That said, a 10 by 10 canopy tent is perfect for 99% of the markets that you'll do, maybe 98. When I first started, a lot of the canopy tents that were available at the time in like a reasonable price range were really hard to set up by yourself. Like, I'm not kidding. You needed 2 people, one on one side, one diagonal from you so that you could extend it and get it open. It was just not something that you could or even wanted to try to do yourself. But again, at these events, there are so many people around to help. And one of my favorite parts about markets is how helpful other vendors and organizers are. So even if you do have one that is difficult to extend on your own, there's going to be someone around you that you can ask for help. People are rarely going to say no. They're so nice. But times have upgraded, and a lot of these canopy tents now are just made to be easier to handle and do by yourself. So the one that I have, actually, all you have to do is extend it out a little bit, and then there's a button underneath that you can push up, and the whole thing just kind of opens up from there. So it's super, super simple, and I'll have that link below because it's my favorite thing ever. It also comes with a carrying case, and it's on wheels. So all you have to do is pack it up in the case, and then you can just move it around. Easiest thing ever. When it comes to the color, I have a white one. I really recommend getting one that kind of fits your branding. Something that you want to look out for though on your applications is any specifics about your table setup or your booth setup. Some people require a white tent because they want a very uniform look across their event. Some people don't care. So if you have it, maybe get one of each. Get a white one to use for the more strict events and get a branded one for when you can really let your own brand personality shine. I'm thinking about upgrading mine and getting maybe something in my brand color green, or getting some wording branded on there, something like that. But for now, I do just use a plain white tent. I said this in my last video, so I'll repeat again here. If you have a 10 by 10 canopy tent, or even if you have the pool umbrella that I talked about earlier, most organizers are going to require that you have weighted sandbags that kind of go on each leg, because it's a liability thing. At any point, the wind could take that tent into the sky and we're all in danger. So this is always required. And even if it's not, I highly recommend that you just invest in 4 sandbags to put on each leg. The ones that I have fill up with about 25 pounds of sand in each bag. So it's the perfect amount to give all 4 legs 100 pounds of extra weight to keep it down. It's very important. Next up, we got to get your products off the ground. So I highly recommend you get some folding tables, ones that are kind of easy to travel and move with. Of course, there are some that are just stationary. They don't have that bend in the center, but you want to get a nice foldable table so it's easily portable. And get as many as you'd like, especially if you have a 10 by 10 space. There are so many different ways that you can configure these in your allotted area. I have a 6-foot table and a 4-foot table, and I put them in somewhat of an L shape so that they kind of connect at the corner, and that's how I display right now. But I have ideas and goals for how I want to kind of level that up later. You could do an L shape with 2 6-foot tables. You could do a U shape with 3 tables, whatever your heart desires. But it's always going to start with making sure you have something to get your products higher to eye level, so your products are closer to your, your passing by customers, and they can engage with them and with you. Next up are tablecloths. I like to use fitted tablecloths. They're almost like a fitted bed sheet, because I don't like things kind of flowing up in the wind, and there are going to be windy days out there. So to protect my products from getting, hit by a flailing tablecloth, I like to use more of these fitted cloths that, again, I'll have linked for you below. These also come in so many colors, by the way. So this is something where you can start to really keep introducing your brand colors and whatever, again, your heart desires. I have white ones, but I'm probably going to switch to more of like an off-white tan kind of color. Click that link. There are so many there. Next for you, I have payment options. If you use Shopify, you probably know that they have a whole selection of different card readers that you can get through them that perfectly sync up with their point of sale system that I tend to use on my iPad, but it also actually has a phone app. So I can say nothing bad about Shopify. I love Shopify. I love the integration of that POS app. Just great stuff all around. around. But then on top of that, I love my card reader, and this one's actually old. They have updated versions of these now that are just so good. The one that I have is great because it can take tap payments, insert, or slide, which most people don't have to do anymore. But if you do need to slide a card, you can do that too. So this is all around a universal card reader that can be used with Apple Pay, Google Pay, all of the tap options, insert for chip, and then slide for the normal, mag strip. I also have with me out there a cash box, and I highly recommend you have this because there will be people that typically want to pay with cash. I've noticed a lot of people come out to markets with somewhat of a budget or like an allowance in mind. So some people will actually come with cash so that they don't go over that limit, and like, hey, it's me. I'm one of those people because I will go out there and have a field day. So having a way to accept and organize cash payments is necessary. Of course, if you just want to use an envelope and some rolls of coins or something, that works too. But I think in the long term, it is good to have a cash box. This one's also great because as you see, it has a place for the key. So you can fully lock this so that it can't be opened if you were to step away from your booth, or it's just good for security. I actually also keep a sign on my table that has QR codes for both my Venmo and PayPal as options for payment, just in case someone needs that and it's a bit easier for them to use. Again, I try to just make it as helpful and seamless for the customer as possible. So whether they want to pay cash, card, or through a virtual payment method, I got it all. Next up, something that I have on my table, and I just showed you one, that's an example of table signage. I have a lot of different signage options on my table. I have one here that has all of my scent options displayed on it. So every single product and the different scents that it comes in are listed here. I also have one for my price list, which is so important. I think overall, the thing with table signage that you want to kind of think about is how can I answer questions that people might feel uncomfortable asking me? So a lot of people don't want to have to ask you, hey, how much is this? Because it makes them feel a little bit more pressured that now they have to make that sale, or have an uncomfortable moment of saying, okay, well, thank you, no, thank you. So having something like this on your table is a good way to answer any questions that are probably going to come up and give people an out to that awkward situation. These are great, and I showed you guys these in my table update video where I kind of showed you expanding with my 4-foot table. But there's a little rubber strip that goes along the bottom, and then it comes with these nice wood holder display things. And essentially you just kind of stick it into there, and then you have a nice displayed sign. So all of them came with that, and all 4 of them would be displayed here. And I just love the way it looks with the rest of my table decor. What is next? Table decor. In my last video, and then again in the update to my table setup video, I did talk and show you guys every single decor piece that goes onto my setup. So I'm not going to touch on all of those, but again, if you see anything on my table that you like and you want to take advantage of using, it's all linked in that other description box. So make sure you go check that out. I did just want to touch on it here though, so you guys don't forget to get aesthetic pieces and just table decor that will make you happy and speak to your brand and the vibe that you're trying to build for your customers and for your brand's personality. Do you want something that's painted? Do you want acrylic, or do you want wood? Do you want bamboo trays, but do you want a marble tray to display things on? Think of things like that. Think of getting some unique pieces like the big leaf shaped display that I just got on my 4-foot table. Think of ways again to take up visual space and get people looking all over your booth. That's what you're kind of aiming for. You're looking for visual interest and things that will again speak to your brand and your personality as well as your brand's. This is what visual merchandising is all about. So I'm talking finishing touches, get all the things. The last 3-4 things are just absolute like game changer things that you need to make sure you have. First of all, if you're doing night markets, I highly recommend that you get some sort of table light. I love these. They actually come in a set of 4. So again, I'll have them linked for you below. These are table lights that have 3 different warmth settings, and you can make it way brighter or dimmer depending on how bright you need it to be. But it just creates the perfect vibe on my table, but it also truly gives me a lot of light at events that don't have any overhead lighting if the market is later at night. So good for setting a vibe and also very necessary for people to see what you have. I also have in my handy dandy organizer here some solar powered lights that go around the perimeter of my tent. I actually use these again for night markets, and I'll put them all around the outside edge of my tent so that they again kind of create an ambiance, a vibe. These aren't super bright, if I'm being completely honest, so I will have them linked for you below, but I also recommend finding some that could be brighter if you don't plan on having a table light. Because my table lights are so bright and I have 4 of them total, that kind of takes care of people being able to see what's on my table. This is more just to make my tent look pretty as well. So I got some that are warm, but they aren't very bright. So definitely important if you're doing night markets, lighting, you gotta have it. If you're doing summer markets, you gotta get a fan. And honestly, this is the bare minimum. There are some that will actually blow out cool air, like it feels like an air conditioner. This sometimes feels like it's just blowing around the hot air, but on hot days when there's no breeze, I will take that. This is important. If you're doing fall and winter markets, get yourself some hand warmers, some foot warmers. Very important. I'm from Florida, so this is actually a non-negotiable for me. I can deal with the heat. I'll be uncomfortable, but I could deal with it. I will not make it through a 4 or 5 hour market shivering. You get these. Don't even think about it. It's important. Make sure you do it. And then last thing on this list as a non-negotiable thing that I went without for way too long is a wagon. Guys, there are a lot of markets where you might get lucky and you can pull up right to your booth and unload right there. Good, everything's fine, it's awesome. But more times than not, you're probably going to have to transport your stuff from your car to your booth setup location, and doing multiple trips with heavy storage boxes of product, and then your canopy tent, and then your chair that you're sitting in. It's a lot of stuff. So to cut down on your trips back and forth and to save your back, talking from experience, please think about investing in some sort of wagon that can hold a good amount of weight. Mine can hold up to 300 pounds, I believe. So I'm good. Like I never have an issue with it collapsing or not being able to move when it's loaded, but I will have this link below. Okay, so I wanted to touch on this because it's something that I mentioned before in my other video, but I didn't get a chance to actually show you how I use these in practice. And then this question has come up a few times in my last few vlogs. I'm talking inventory organization. When I first started doing markets, I had my usual spiel. I tell people that when they come to the booth, feel free to open up and test anything on the front trays. And I have little bamboo trays in the front, all holding a 4-ounce jar or bottle of my product. And they even say tester on the labels so that people know what they're looking at and which ones are able to be opened. But sometimes people don't listen. So I decided to pivot because I was having a lot of a situation come up where even though I was leading them to the testers, people would still reach and open up my bigger 8-ounce jars that were on those taller display shelves. And sometimes they even stuck their finger in there instead of using one of my little sample spoons. And of course, at that point, there's no way I'm going to sell that cream, that scrub, that oil. So I decided to actually turn all of what you see displayed on my table is a stock prop. They aren't updated products. They are ones that I made probably over 1.5 years ago, and some of them maybe even longer. And long story short, they just don't get sold. They're purely there to show you the label and the larger size of everything that's being offered in the tester sizes in the front. So if anyone accidentally reaches for those, I'm not as concerned about it anymore as I used to be. So depending on what you're selling, I highly recommend having some kind of setup like that because it's just gonna happen. People are probably gonna open something. If you step away from your booth, they're probably gonna open the bigger one instead of a small one. I don't know what the psychology is behind that, but it's going to happen. So just set yourself up for a little bit of success and maybe just be okay with having something on the table that isn't actually in play for customer buying. Now, if you have candles, I'm sure that's a completely different game, totally fine, whatever. But of course, like I said, someone, sticking their nose really close to an 8-ounce jar that I'm then going to turn around and sell to somebody just didn't feel right, especially if then they also dipped their finger in there or even scooped some out. It's just not the experience I want for my buying customers. So all of those are fake. From there, transporting to and from markets, I have all of my products in different storage boxes by category. So all of my body creams in each size are all in one storage container. Same thing with my body oils and scrubs, bath salts, and my perfume oils. They're all in different boxes, so I know where to reach for each order. Markets move fast, so you could have a moment where your booth is completely empty and no one's there, and you can also have a moment where people are forming a line and you're trying to turn around orders and gift and get card payments just back to back. So something I noticed that was slowing me down was having to pick up each jar out of that container to see which label was correct. So something that I started doing was actually putting the abbreviation of my scent options on a little sticker on the cap of each of my jars in the box. So now when I open up the top of that container, I can see all of the different options and I can easily find, okay, so they want a 4-ounce black amber and lavender cream. I can open up the cream box, and now instead of looking for that specific label, all I got to do is find the right jar size, which is easy. They look different. And now I'm just looking for the BAL abbreviation to find that scent. I'll make sure I have these linked for you guys below, but to do this, I just use a roll of little, I think they're 1-inch circle stickers. And as you see, they're just styled right on the top of each jar, so I know what I'm looking for. And I think that's it for inventory. Last up, guys, I wanted to touch on talking to customers. And this is something that of course will vary person to person because we all have different personalities and all of that. But I wanted to just give you some of my tips for interacting with your customers or potential customers at your booth. You guys have seen me in all of my market videos because I've done a handful of them, but this is one of my favorite parts. I genuinely love talking to people about my products. And I think I've said this before, I am a very introverted person and people are always surprised when I say that, but I think it depends on who I'm talking to and what we're talking about that makes the huge difference in my energy level. Small talk, can't do it. Talking about my products with someone who's interested or learning about them, totally different, totally different. That being said, talking to customers and all of that, while I am still very exhausted at the end of the day, I do get a little bit of life from just discussing my stuff with people who want to hear about it. So here's some of my tips for talking and just engaging with people at your booth. First of all, know yourself. And that's just like going to carry us through the rest of this video. Know yourself, know who you are and what lights you up, what doesn't light you up. What do you like? Be that person behind your booth, because if you're not, it's going to come across. If you are trying to be too salesy, you're going to sound salesy. But if you're talking about your products in a way that you're just engaging and just having a conversation, that's different. Versus if you are someone that is really good at being a salesperson, it might not sound as salesy as someone who just doesn't interact in that way. Does that make sense? For me, I'm not a salesy person. When I try to be too structured and perfect, it comes across and I sound robotic. So instead of doing that, I like to just engage with what the other customer is engaging with themselves. So if someone walks into the booth, my usual spiel is to tell them what I have, because a lot of people, you'd be surprised, come in and they think it's candles or they're looking for a bar soap. And even though you can't see it, you're still looking for it because you're expecting it. So I like to actually just avoid all of that and give them a quick snapshot of what they have to look for. So my usual word for word, almost script at this point, but it doesn't feel scripted. You know what I mean? I tell people, hey, welcome in. Feel free to open up and check out anything on the front trays, because again, we're avoiding those 8-ounce sizes. They aren't real product. Feel free to open up and test anything on the front trays. I've got all natural bath and body care. Feel free to open up anything on the front trays and smell. I've got body creams with matching perfumes and body scrubs. Those are the body scrubs. Those scents match in the creams and these perfumes too. I have bath salts and discovery kits over there, and I have unscented body oils here. I like to save the body oils for last because they're my only unscented product. Each of them are only scented by the infusion of the herbs inside that formula. So I like to save that for last so that I'm bunching everything that does have fragrance together, and then the one thing that doesn't is saved for last in my speech. From there, they typically say, thank you, oh, sounds good. And I'm like, you're welcome. And I sit back and I let them shop, because I don't know about you. And again, this is where you know yourself. But when I walk into a store and I'm immediately attacked with, hey, what are you looking for today? Can I help you shop? You want me to get a room set up for you? I'm instantly like, whoa, hold on. I just got here. So after introducing everything, I let them do their thing and shop in peace. And I typically wait for them to pick something up or to have a reaction. And that's when I'm kind of engaging more. This is purely what works for me and my personality type and the vibe I'm going for in my booth. This could be totally different depending on what you're selling. You might want to just sit back and not say anything to your customer. I do recommend you at least say hi, but it's up to you. I just think that for me and what's worked best is kind of letting the customer lead the interaction, and then I engage with what they're looking at. So from there, if they pick up a scrub, I'll let them know that, hey, those all have a base of shea butter and natural plant oils. So they're really moisturizing, they rinse off really cleanly. If they pick up one of my cashmere and silk perfumes, I might tell them, hey, that one pairs so well with other perfumes. The oil base makes the scent last longer, but that particular scent is such a good base scent for others to build up on. So I highly recommend it. It's a crowd favorite. I might just say that and leave them alone. Cool, now they're smelling the rest. If someone comes in and they just are kind of scanning the table, but they aren't actually opening up and engaging with anything, that's when maybe I'll ask them, what kind of scent do you usually gravitate towards? And they might say, eucalyptus. And I'll say, oh, the white tea and bergamot. It's not eucalyptus, but it has that kind of energizing scent that eucalyptus does. It's a really good one if you want to smell. And I might even pick it up and hand it to them. If they say they like something sweet, I'll point them to pink sugar, dark pomegranate. So what's worked best for me is just following the lead of my customers and naturally seeing where the conversation goes. And sometimes I might not get the sale. Sometimes they walked in by accident because they were looking for candles and they saw a jar and assumed. And when I said Bath and Body Care, they stood there to be nice, but then they're ready to leave again. Totally fine. You're not for everybody. Your vibe, your products, your tent is not for everyone, and that's totally fine. So of course, if you've missed some of my market vlogs, I highly recommend you go check those out because you can see kind of some of my interactions with customers. It really is one of my favorite parts of the events. So if you're just looking for tips on how you could do it, if you have a personality like mine, that's how I do my events. And if you want to be more upbeat, if you want to be standing on the edge of your booth and kind of holding out a jar of cream or of a candle and say, hey, like we have this new scent. Anything could work. It really truly depends on you and how you play it off. Another example is the way that I stay seated behind my booth. I do not like standing for two reasons. Number one, it leads me to be a bit more salesy than I like to be. I feel a bit more antsy when I'm standing there and just like moving around. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of just how my energy manifests versus when I'm sitting, I'm calm, cool, collected, confident, ready to do my thing. Also, I'm 6'1", so I literally hover over people if I'm standing up, and I don't want them to feel that way when they're in my booth. I don't want to make them feel pressured or watched or observed the whole time. So I like to just sit down and kind of mind my business, literally as I'm minding my business. And again, answer questions as they come up or engage when they pick up certain products. Do what works for you. That is the moral of this segment. Do what works for you guys. Don't let the rules of markets, the rules of sales, all of that goes out the window if you don't portray yourself correctly when you try to follow those rules. So just be confident in who you are, confident in the brand that you're building, and you will attract the people that are meant for you. All right, you guys, I feel like I've been talking for like 2 hours. I probably have, to be honest with you. And I'm worried that I sped through some of this. So please, please, please let me know in the comments below if you guys have any questions, you need me to clarify anything, if I forgot a link that you're interested in. I do have things over on those past videos, but if there's anything specific you saw in this video that you're interested in and I don't have it linked below, let me know and I'll throw it in a comment for you. But I hope that this was helpful because fall markets are coming and it's gifting season. So I really hope you guys feel empowered and ready to go out there and have your best market season ever. So whether you are preparing for your third, fourth fall market season, you're about to do your first market ever, if you're nervous, if you're excited, I have so much faith in you. It's going to be a great end of the year. Let's wrap it up strong and let me know below what you have coming up. If you found this helpful, please let me know below. Leave me a like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.